Hey everyone, welcome to the Electric Supercar channel. Today we're going to be taking you through this Range Rover. The 1995 Range Rover Classic, one of the most luxurious off-road vehicles of its time. It came with a powerful V8, full-time four-wheel drive, and that iconic boxy design that still looks timeless today. What made it special was the way it combined real off-road capability with luxury and comfort, something almost no SUV was doing back then. It was also the final generation of the original Range Rover design. In this video, we have a Range Rover sent to us by a client. At first glance, it looks solid, but like many cars that come through here, it has its share of problems. Some parts are loud.
Pressure.
Oh yeah,
then
it has to do it.
Yeah,
like
that's
this.
yeah.
Can you let go?
Some parts need attention.
This is very loud. So this one doesn't have any isolation mounts.
And some we might have to completely rethink. But that's part of the challenge. God, do you hear that shaking? So this one is a new one for the channel, and this one has actually already been electrified. ECD has already done this one, but the kit actually comes from Electric Classic Cars. So I'm really interested to see what they've done. All right, so you might be wondering, if this is already converted, why are they bringing it to you? What do they want done? Well, let me get into some of those details. First, I'll say there's some noise issues. So there's just a lot of things that are making a lot of noise. The client wants us a little bit quieter, so we're gonna see what we can do there. There's also some drivability things like regen that they would like to add, as well as just some general updates like head unit. Today we're gonna walk you through this vehicle and start on some of those upgrades. All right, so before we start digging into some of the details, we're actually gonna take a baseline and get a good understanding of what the vehicle does and what it needs to do. And here is damage, just kind of on this back bumper piece. And I'm not sure if anything here is kind of, it looks maybe like something's pushed a little bit. Can't quite tell though. This side looks like it kind of lines up better than the other side. All right, so we'll take you on a little drive. I have turned the fans off just because I think they're loud and you can't hear too well. This is not the sound of a quiet EV. So the fans are off, but everything else is on. So this one, what you've got to do, I don't know why they've done this, but you've got to do that and that kind of turns on. I'll call it the high voltage system so we can put it in gear and such. Go ahead and go reverse, take off the park brake. And so this is what I'll show you. So right here, this is like the accelerator pedal. Okay, so my foot's just barely tapping it, okay, right? So if I go like this, right? So that's like, you can hear it come, but I'm not moving. And ready, not yet. Oh my gosh. So I feel like it's literally, for most cars, it would be like almost full throttle, and that's just to get it to start to move. This customer wants to evaluate kind of regen and as well as motor noise. So we are going to go ahead and do a quick little drive and see what we think. All right, so we're now in forward gear. You can hear the power steering a little bit, but that's okay for electric power steering. And the throttle, when I say throttle, the application of the motor is just a little choppy, but see, we're off the throttle and we're just still coasting. So no regen. So I don't know if you can hear it or feel it, but it's just. So again, I think the motor controller must be an older one that's not very up to date. I mean, it's really nice build on the inside. Oh my gosh, it is gutless. Yeah, we'll have to see if there's drive modes or something because they've got the large drive unit and it does not have a lot of pick-me-up. And I think this is basically coasting. I don't think there's any regen. So we'll see what motor controller are doing to see if we can give them some regen. All right, so I think what it is I think the accelerator pedal's got a lot of, I'll call it dead space. So meaning like you can go the first like quarter of travel without really getting any engagement. So I think that's maybe what the problem is. So like where I feel like it should be the end of the travel, it's got more. So I think we just probably need to make some pedal adjustments. There is kind of some with the drivetrain. The noise isn't too bad though. We'll see what we can do. Today's sponsor is Surfshark. Surfshark is a VPN or virtual private network. You might be wondering, what is this? Why would you need it? A couple years ago, I actually got my identity stolen. So I clicked on the link, but it was already too late. It was a pretty horrific experience. And yeah, it's awful and I wouldn't wish it on anybody. Using a product like Surfshark really can help with a lot of these things. Do you know that over 70 million Americans have been exposed to data breaches? This means your information's out there for anybody to just have and use. It can also help you when you're online shopping. Lots of times it collects a lot of data. Or let's say you're traveling like in an airport lounge. Lots of those free Wi-Fis can have some problems. Surfshark is there to help you. When you connect to Surfshark, your internet traffic is encrypted, so your data stays safe from hackers, trackers, and unwanted monitoring. It also hides your real location by changing your IP address, allowing you to browse the internet privately and access content from different regions. With one account, you can connect unlimited devices, so your phone, laptop, tablet, and even your smart TV stay protected at the same time. Surfshark includes useful features like Clean Web, which blocks ads, trackers, and malware, giving you a smoother and safer browsing experience. It's easy to use, just open the app, tap connect, and you're protected in seconds. Whether you're using public Wi-Fi, streaming, or just browsing, Surfshark keeps your connection private and secure. Surfshark can also help with cookies. So when you go into these websites, they will often store a lot of your information, and you'll even go to a different website and you'll be like, man, how did they get that information? Surfshark can really help with a lot of these instances. Go to surfshark.com/supercardeal or use code SUPERCARDEAL at the checkout to get 4 extra months of Surfshark VPN. So we've got a lot of things to fix. One of the first things we want to fix is kind of the throttle, the application of throttle. There's kind of some serious issues with the throttle. You kind of push it like 30% and there's literally no movement, to the point where I thought, okay, we need to switch gears, or what am I doing wrong? No, you have to go like beyond 30% even to just kind of get it to move. And then when you think you're at full throttle, you're probably halfway. So I mean, the pedal travels like 6 inches, where normally you're used to kind of like 2 inches. So we'll have to dial that in as well.
Okay, so we're working on the Range Rover. While we were scanning that pedal, I actually found out cable-driven system. So I'm gonna get in there and show you kind of the weirdness that we're seeing going on and how we're gonna fix it. I can give you a shot here underneath. That right there doesn't register on the system that you've pushed that at all. So that's like 30%. And you got the rest of the travel. So that's really disconcerting when you're driving. The first 30% just doesn't work. Then when you push, there you go. There's the throttle. So things that we're kind of noticing is this looks like it's super bent. So maybe that's why the slack is there. So we're gonna check that out and see if that needs to be bent. And then we're also gonna see what we can do about this, because this has so much slack and it takes a long time to start initiating the pedal. So gonna see if we can get that fixed. I finally got this thing out. This is the potentiometer, it's got the 0 EV. This linkage right here is kind of what we're worried about. It's like, feels like they just kind of bent it and put it on there. So kind of want to replace that. You can see that it pivots. I think this arm feels redundant compared to this arm. My initial idea is, hey, let's make a plate, replaces this one, can remove this. Check that out and CAD something up, and yeah, we'll go from there. Also, check out the new shop computer. We'll use it for like our scanning and CAD around the shop. All right, we've got our piece cut out. Extra did a good job as always. We're gonna go ahead and get it bent. Here's the new system. Also see we removed that linkage. You can see I'm pushing on the pedal. There's no slack. You'll get the travel you're looking for. So I'd say that's a sweet upgrade there. Keeps the remaining system, but much less complicated, much easier to service and work on, and now the pedal works like it's designed.
So Braden tackled the accelerator pedal, and the pedal's actually in, and a lot of the slop is gone. We probably still need to do some more fine tuning. So the The pedal, I think the sensor, when it's at 0 or at 10%, I think the sensor still thinks it's at 0. So rather than the pedal being all the way to 0, we're gonna probably have the pedal be like at 10 or 15 or 20% and program that to be 0. So that way we'll kind of get rid of all the slop in the acceleration. Again, I'm not used to the accelerator pedal having so much travel, but there's a little bit of motor noise, but that's somewhat expected. But we'll see if we can quiet some of that too. All right, we are working on the Range Rover, and one of the things that's a little annoying about this one is it's got some really loud fans and they're on all the time. One of the other things the customer wanted us to focus on was the sound. This is not the sound of a quiet EV. So in the back here, under the bumper, so they've got 2 sets of radiators. So that's a radiator, and there's one there. So essentially 4 fans, and they are loud. So what we're gonna do is we've got some things, there's a little temperature module. We've got this one, which is kind of an inline thing that we can put a temperature sensor in. So with those few things, we're gonna get it so the fans only come on when they're needed. So I'm gonna call this the thermal board. It comes with a thermistor and a plug, but this only gives you like, I don't know, maybe 3 feet. So we need to lengthen this, and we're gonna use a different thermistor. So we're just gonna cut and splice for the length we need. All right, I've tried to draw on the board here what I'm doing. Essentially there's a power and a ground to each fan, and there's a plug. So 2 powers, 2 grounds. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna actually make a plug. So these ones originally went together and they were just on all the time. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna have this one coming from the car. I'm gonna have it go this way. It goes to relays. The relays are gonna be turned on by the temperature sensors from our board. Power in down here to the relay, and it'll only turn on the fans if the thermostats say, hey, you need to turn on. Essentially the ground sides just need to go straight through. So 2 powers, 2 grounds, that's what we're gonna do. All right, so we've 3D printed this bracket, put in several of these inserted nuts so we can fasten things to them. This one's gonna go right over here. They already had some relays here. And so basically we're just gonna go onto that same spot and put on some new relays, and then also our thermostat boards. There we go. All right, so this is ours coming down and comes over here. We've got it splitting off. This is gonna go for the plugs, but these 2 smaller ones are going for the sensors. We'll go ahead and get those connected. Got my plug made. I'm just doing it for 1 fan right now. We're gonna turn the car on and see if things up here are looking like we expect. So we've got, this one's our rear fan. That one's at least got some power. So we'll go ahead and do some programming, make sure that it can turn on and off the relay. Once we can kind of confirm that, we'll verify pins below and hook it up to the fan. All right, let's go ahead and hit set. So 28, let's go. I guess we can keep it there for now. So I guess I need to check to make sure. So this is the current temp and it's supposed to kick on at 27. So I think what I'll do is I will check to verify we don't have any voltage down below, and then I'll change this to below 20 and make sure that it does click on. All right, so the other thing I want to check is the lash pack. All right, so we're set at 2 degrees, so meaning like if it hits our threshold, it'll actually go full 2 degrees before it'll kick off or on again. So that's good. So 27, so I'll check that real quick, and then we'll go back to like 20. So hold on. All right, so I checked and there is no voltage below, which is what we want. So we've got this one all ready and plugged in and working. So right now the sensor says it's 23. It's actually probably a little cooler in the shop, but I've been heating it up and cooling it down stuff. So it is set to kick on 24, but I think it actually has to get past its hysteresis. So when it's at 26, it'll kick on, and then it'll kick off when it's at 24. So let me show you what we got. So basically I'm just heating it up with a heat gun. See if that's enough. So basically it got above 26, which is what it takes to kick on, and then it'll slowly, obviously this sensor's not in any active cooling, but just over a little bit of time it'll kick off. So essentially when it gets down below 24. All right, so we're watching it here. When it gets below 24, should kick off. There it goes. All right, so we're working on this one now. We've got, this one was already done. Got this one all set up to try. So we're gonna check that one real quick with the heat gun, make sure it clicks the fan on, and after a while it'll go off when the temperature goes down. So we'll check that real quick. So that is the other fan, and we had to get above 26, and so we're now cooling down. I think it's gotta get below 24. Yay, it works. The last thing we need to do is those sensors right now are on the outside of the coolant loop. We need to put them inside the coolant loop. So gonna have to drain the coolant, put those fittings in place, and then refill the coolant. Then we'll put the settings to the appropriate place for each of those cooling loops.
So we've got these inline temperature sensors. This is the battery coolant loop. This is going to the radiator. Here's a radiator here. We've already gone pump, front battery. Now this is the rear battery into the radiator, and then obviously we'll come out of the radiator and back to the reservoir and pump. So this is the hottest location in the loop. So that's where we want it. We want it before the radiator. You got this temperature sensor that Jeremy's already wired up and tested. Everything works, kicks on the fans, it's great. This is a really short run, so it was really difficult, but I got some vice grips and some towels, basically pinched off the line on both sides, and then chopped it, drained the little bit of coolant that was in there, and then added this temperature sensor in line. I'm gonna use these worm gear clamps, just loosen it, open it up. And these worm gear clamps came with the sensor. Okay, that should be tight enough. This. Okay. All right, so we're gonna do the same thing for the motor coolant loop. All right, so it's this line here. So I'm gonna get my clamps on here and here, pinch it off, cut it here, right there. Freaking barb. Feels like it's too freaking big. Oh my gosh. Okay. Okay, now. Maybe like that. All right. And that's how you add inline temperature sensors without draining the whole coolant system. Okay. So something I noticed while working under here on the coolant for the batteries and the motor, the pump pumps into the front battery, then out of the front battery through this line wraps around. And then this is the port for the rear battery, into the rear battery. And this is out of the rear battery. But something I noticed was they've put some T's in here, and I don't know why. So if it comes in, it's supposed to go into the rear battery, through the chiller, out of the rear battery, into the radiator where we just put the sensor, and then out of the radiator to the pump. But with T's, T here and a T here, with this line basically completely bypasses the battery. So I don't know if like they had like a bad chiller plate in the battery and they just bypassed it with this, or they're worried about flow for the front battery, or they thought that it would kind of just have super low flow through the rear battery and not, you know, and put this bypass in so it doesn't stall the pump, or like, I don't know. This doesn't make sense though, because it's just gonna go right past the battery and not cool the rear pack. So I think we're gonna remove this. We just gotta find some elbows to put in instead. Why is that there? Can anybody tell me why that would be there? Okay, welcome to John's whiteboard. So what I'm seeing with the cooling loop is a reservoir here. That drops down to the pump, and that pumps up to front battery box, pumps in, then out, goes to the rear battery. So out of the rear battery, into the radiator, then to the reservoir, and does the whole cycle over again. What they've done is put in a T here and then connected that. So now it just goes like this instead of actually going through the battery. And I don't know why.
All right, got the temperature sensors perfectly in line here. This one's for the rear one. That's right there. It's for the front one. I think I'll do maybe one more, just tidying up some of the cables, but then this part is good. So I've disabled the fans for now. Let me show you up front some of the other sounds. So this one they've opted for a kind of electric hydraulic power steering, and then this is a vacuum pump.
And that takes vacuum pressure.
Oh yeah,
that
then it has
pressure,
to do it.
Yeah,
like
that
this.
vacuum. Yeah.
Can you let go?
So it might be this.
Because they've got the original brake booster. So those are a couple other noisy things that we're going to try to, probably not going to switch these out, but we'll probably try to make them closer to keep the sound down. But this is what it sounds like. We're just testing AC, and this is very loud. So this one doesn't have any isolation mounts, so we might want to add that too. A couple other things the client wants done on this one. They want an updated head unit with some kind of display information from the vehicle. So that's going to be an interesting task. They want DC fast charging. So again, that's challenging and costly, but we can do it. Oh, and this car currently does not have any regen. So we're going to check out what vehicle controller they have and see if we can dial that in, or if we'll need to switch vehicle controllers. There'll probably be a couple other odds and ends. This car does have air ride suspension. The client wants to see if we can kind of have those controls be in the dash. Right now it's kind of corded in the center console like a remote, but it's corded. So we'll see if we can get that kind of more OEM. All right, that's going to do it for this time. We've got some stuff done, but a lot to go. Thanks for tuning in. See you next time. Oh, that is nuts. Looks like we got a little bit of oil or fluid leak in there.